And we're back for day 2. So, just to recap, if you were here yesterday, the first day of the Creative Entrepreneur Unleashed live series, which I promised you guys I was going to walk you through my 5-step framework that I use with my clients in the Flourishing Creative Accelerator. And we also use this framework in a looser way, more strategic and more fine-tuned when I have social strategy intensives with people. So if you saw my story earlier today, I just got done doing an intensive. My intensives are run like VIP days. So it's just me, one person, and we're laser focused on whatever your goals are and mapping out a 90-day strategy. So if you do want more information about those, because people are asking me what that was. So if you want more information about that, just send me a DM. The sales page, and it's not really ready yet, but I still do them in the background. But anywho, we are going to recap day 1 really quickly. If you missed it, I went into a whole bunch of detail yesterday. That live is still on my feed. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep these up. I might keep them up for a limited time, but I'll see how I feel. So, live recap of day 1. We went over the work method, which is the 3-part strategy that I do with everyone. So, you will see the strategy in my content on Instagram. You'll see it if you're any of my programs. You'll see it if you work one-on-one with me. And the strategy that I go over with everything is really all encompassing. So it goes over influence, impact, and income. So yesterday I was talking about how creative mastery and embodiment is the key factor to creating that influence, impact, and income with your business on Instagram. So I went over the first 2 of the 5-step framework. So yesterday we went over unlocking your creative genius and what that even means, and then envisioning your goals and how envisioning your goals and stepping into them, moving those goals forward is not goal setting. It's almost like the opposite, because goal setting, you're just like, oh, okay, these are the goals. I'll slap them on a vision board or something. And envisioning and actually seeing them and stepping into them is a whole embodiment process. So that's a part of the embodiment piece. And if you haven't already, be sure after this live to click the link in my bio, get the workbook that goes along with this series, because it has actual action steps that you can start taking and start moving toward those goals instead of letting them collect dust on a vision board. So today, thank you. So today I am going to be talking about the mistakes that a lot of creatives are making when it comes to their marketing and how to fix it. I'll be giving you guys examples from the clients that I've worked with, what they came to me for and how we adjusted, how we pivoted. So I talked about pivoting yesterday, and then we are going to go over the last 3 steps of the framework. So those are putting your purpose on a pedestal, community building with intention, and a scroll stopping offer, and how all of these work together. And I'm also going to sprinkle in a couple of little hacks that I have about working with the algorithm, and I'm actually going to start with that. So with the 3rd step of putting your purpose on a pedestal, this is really about you stepping into what it is that you're doing. Hello, guys. So this is really about you stepping into that. So when you're envisioning those goals and creating that performance piece that goes along with the goal, this is when you're putting it out. You're just like, hey world, here I am. I am going to go full force with this, because like I said, all of my clients, especially in Flourishing Creative Accelerator, first thing they show up with is commitment behind what it is that they're doing, their vision, where they want to be within the time that we're working together, and where they want to be even after that. So a lot of times people, when they're showing up to, especially Instagram, social media in general, they're having hesitations because social media, especially in this day and age, has a reputation of being very toxic. So, and toxic meaning we were talking about, some things are triggering. There's different ways that social media can be quote unquote toxic. But when I'm working with clients and I'm asking them what is it that's toxic about it to you, it's usually because they are in some way interacting with things that they do not like. So you have to remember that Facebook and Instagram are connected. So sometimes if you interact with something on Facebook, you'll see it over on Instagram. I know Facebook is real feisty. Usually we're a little bit nicer over here in the Instagram streets, but that Facebook highway is crazy. So even if you're interacting with something on Facebook, you might see it over on Instagram. You might see it on your Explore page. You do have to be very mindful of that. And I remember saying this before when I was talking about how my old account got hacked. I lost all my followers, and then I had to start building this account a month and a half ago. How I wasn't so upset about losing followers. I really wasn't that upset because I was like, I can build it again. I was upset about training my algorithm again because that is very annoying. And training your algorithm is just a lot about being intentional with what you look at. So even on the explore page, you might be tempted to look at something for too long. Instagram is following your eyeballs. Like, do not be mistaken. Instagram is like, oh, so she didn't click through to that, but she stopped in this little section where she saw this weird thing happening in this reel. We're going to show her more of that. So you got to be very intentional with how you're showing up, who you're following. And then someone was saying to me last week that they were having trouble actually seeing their friends on Instagram. I was like, why? What are you seeing? They're like, a whole bunch of celebrities. I'm like, yeah, because celebrities, they get 1 million likes on something. The algorithm favors very quick actions like likes and comments. Of course, you're going to see that if you follow a lot of celebrities. Unfollow them. You don't have to know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, I love Rihanna. I don't follow her. I can go see her when I want to, but I know if I do follow a whole bunch of people like that, that's all I'm going to see. I'm not going to actually see my friends. So keep that in mind. That's not even what I want to talk about with putting it on a pedestal, but I just want to say that just so I could get into things. So when you're uncomfortable getting out there because you don't want to add to the toxicity of Instagram, you have to come and know what you're actually bringing, the positive things. And you also have to accept that there might be negativity thrown your way. There might be shade thrown your way. But if you present yourself in a way that is respectable and you respect other people, you usually don't see much of that. Like, I can't think of anything that's ever happened to me. Even when I had 9,000 followers, it was never anything bad because I'm always coming with a very positive vibe. And this is a part of building boundaries. So boundaries around what you will accept as a business owner and what you won't. So usually if something shady is happening, it's someone who doesn't even follow you or you don't follow them. So you might have one of those random DM requests of somebody saying something weird. Just go ahead and delete it. See what they have to say. If it's something important, if it's not, delete it. Bye. And honestly, also, if it's something that's happening where you feel like you can't unfollow that person or there's some weird situational thing, you can always mute people and they will never know. I promise you, I have muted some of my best friends at given points of time just because there was a boundary that I needed to reestablish. But feel free to mute people. You always have that option. It doesn't have to be a block. It doesn't have to be an unfollow. But when you're thinking about your boundaries and how you're going to put yourself out there, think about how you don't want to show up because that will often dictate how you do want to show up, and think about the things that you don't want to share. Because as entrepreneurs, a lot of the time, the journey is a part of our content, a part of the process, and a part of, especially if you're a coach or a teacher or a healer, it's a part of what you're giving to people with your service or your programs. So when you're thinking about what you don't want to share, one of my clients, Danny, she doesn't like to share her husband very often because she feels like that's a private part of her life. I'm like, that's not a boundary we need to cross. People, you don't even have to tell people you're married. They can know of your husband. You don't have to be taking selfies with them all the time. But when you're thinking about this and how I'm saying what you don't want to share will dictate what you can share. And you can even that's what I'm saying, put it on a pedestal. You can really highlight those things. So one of my clients, Tam, she does makeup. She's an amazing makeup artist. She does body paint. She does all this tight stuff. If you want to follow her Instagram, I think is makeup by Tra, Tra. You can find her. She always has bomb body paint. But when I started working with her, she was trying to figure out how she can differentiate herself from every other makeup artist on Instagram. And I was like, okay, well, let's try some things and I'll give you feedback. So Tam was one of my clients who was like, I will go live if you say that sounds good. I was like, I mean, if you cool with it, cool with it. Let's go. So she would go live, and I noticed that she started doing this thing, and Tam is Puerto Rican. So she would do this thing where she would switch between Spanish and English. And I don't think that she was intentionally doing it, but I was like, oh, you need to do that more. I don't see people do that very often, speak to their Spanish audience and their English audience. And she was like, oh, I'm just doing it because my family will be on my live sometime. I'm like, you need to do that. We need to work that into your content. So she would do that. And then Tam is also very spiritual. So lately she's been doing this thing called Beauty with Consciousness, where she'll go live with somebody or they'll be with her and they're talking about angels, crystals, meditation, whatever the case may be, some sort of spiritual thing. And she's doing her makeup the whole time and like saying, and the person's just talking. She's doing the, so it's like double team of like, oh my gosh, her makeup looks amazing. But also this conversation is incredible. So thinking about what you're not willing to do and saying, okay, well, that's out the window. What is it that I am doing and how can I highlight that and make that like my special sauce? Oh, I was about to sneeze. And make that the special sauce. That's what I want you guys to really focus on. And in the workbook, I talk more about this. So if you don't have it yet, just hit the link in my bio. You could download it, do all the little action steps I have for you. But I just want to give you some examples and really tell you guys how to train the algorithm to really influence what it is that you want. Oh, also, when you're training the algorithm, I was talking about this on the intensive earlier. When you're training your algorithm, the hashtags that you use dictate what the algorithm knows you like. So, or knows what you're about. So it's kind of like you're filing yourself in the Instagram library of saying like, okay, I do creative entrepreneurship and marketing. So I'll get a lot of people coming into like following me or on my explore page who are also like creatives. So if you're trying to figure out where your people are, definitely start using the hashtags that put you in that category. So next things next, community building with intention. And this is something that mostly when people book intensives with me, they're like, I need to grow my audience. I'm like, okay, I understand. I get it. But I do want you guys to know that even if you don't have an audience, you don't have a big list, you have like under 500 followers, that shouldn't be something that stops you from getting in front of people, because statistically, smaller audiences have way higher engagement rates. Because once you like get to a certain point, you can't have that authentic connection like you would if you only had like a few people to DM every day. So keep that in mind and know that when you have a smaller audience, it's a lot easier to sell, especially higher price things, because people are like, oh, she like actually gets it because she's like I talked to her, like we're in each other's DMs, we're corresponding with each other. It's not like just some big name and they're like, well, maybe this will work, maybe it wouldn't. I guess she has a lot of followers. I guess that's a good sign. When you have like that authentic relationship with someone, it will skyrocket your success a lot more. So just keep that in mind. And then sometimes I'll work with people who come from Facebook. So my client Tatiana, she had a Facebook account. She didn't really use it that much, and she did not have Instagram when we started working together. And we started working together last summer, and come this year, she has like 10.3 thousand followers, starting from absolute scratch. So I'm like, when people tell me building an audience is hard, I'm like, no, it's not. Tatiana's from Eastern Europe. Her main hesitation when she was showing up on Instagram was that her English wasn't perfect and she didn't want her captions to be weird because she didn't know grammar perfectly. I was like, girl, you know how many people on here? It's 1 billion people on here. You don't think nobody got an accent? I'm like, if you don't show up. So, and she really took my advice to heart. She did everything that I asked her to do, and now she done blown up. And she has these wonderful, so recap, her business is basically activewear for women, but it has like affirmations on it. And she has this new thing that just came out. I was like, this is so Tatiana, and it's like selling out. So it's like a hoodie. Well, you could get a hoodie, pullover, t-shirt, whatever. And it has like a note to the person behind you of like positive affirmation. So it says like, dear person standing behind me. And then at the end, it's like, from the person standing in front of you, love and light. It's beautiful. If you want to see her account, it's my.return. So like my return, but with dots in the middle. Anywho, love Tatiana. She was amazing to work with. So being comfortable and getting out there with the boundaries and then going ahead of that and building your community with intention. A lot of people don't know how to build community because they don't know how to engage or make that first step. And I always tell people like the first step of engagement and getting people to engage with you is telling people that you're open to those conversations by engaging first. So sometimes when you're building an audience, like you can build all you want, but if you're not engaging those people and bringing value and like actually putting yourself out there to build a relationship, what are you building these numbers for? Like, make it make sense. So when you're doing this, make sure that you are being intentional with who you're inviting into your space, that you are establishing the boundaries that you have around your content, what you're willing to ingest from Instagram's content, and really building those relationships by engaging first. So if you're thinking about ways to engage and how to get your audience to reciprocate, one of the things that I told my client Bianca, she sells candles, and she was one of my first clients. Back when I was working with her, I gave her this idea that because she sells a physical product, maybe structure your content around special dates. And it doesn't have to be holidays. It can be days that are just special to you or days you think are amazing. So it could be like National Candle Day, National Best Friends Day, and she might post something like, what's your best friend without a candle? She posted this really, really funny Halloween meme for Halloween this year, that because Bianca, and she can do this because she has a very sassy tone to her brand, she said it was one of her best friends was like, you need to take that down, that's inappropriate. But when you establish boundaries with your audience, if you establish the brand voice that you're sassy, I will expect that from you. It would be different if you were like super reserved and very pure, and then one day you come out cussing. Like, that would be way different. But I cackled when I saw it. I DM'd her. I was like, this is hilarious, you need to do more of this. And then she was like, I was about to ask you because you my content coach. And I was like, why is she coming at me sideways? I was like, I don't know, sis, but ignore her. She's just projecting what she would not do because that's a boundary of hers. It's not a boundary of yours. So also differentiating what boundaries are yours and what are projections from others. But that is a very deep, like completely different conversation. So moving forward, so that was community building with intention. And the action step there is to engage first. And just a reminder, like I said, there are more action steps in the workbook. You can click the link in my bio, go get that. You can wait until after this because the link is going to be there. So last things last, and this is the last piece of the framework, but it's also the most important because this is where the income comes in. So a scroll stopping offer. So when you're on Instagram, and especially the millennial audience, we grew up with social media. Like, we saw the evolution of it. We see where it is now. We can spot an ad a mile away, or if somebody's selling. And the way of selling, especially in the Instagram world, in the coaching world, has been like really masculine from like as far as I can remember, up until it's like changing now, because I feel like because a lot of more women are in it, but it had like a very masculine, like, I'm going to sell you something, like, click this link. It's like a lot of clickbait and very like salesy, but it's not like a good feeling. It's like, and then when you see so much of it, it's just like, sis, do something else. Like, why are we all doing the same thing? Like, let's show up differently because we are different people, and let's talk how we talk instead of going through this script of this is how a webinar should be. You have to start with these different slides. And I remember when webinars, like 2 years ago, when webinars were like hitting. I haven't been on a webinar in a minute, but 2 years ago when I was like really like trying to piece things together and be like, all right, I'm gonna be a coach. I gotta see what I need. I was on webinars every other day, sometimes twice a day. And I always knew when the sales pitch was going to come up because it was literally every webinar was the same slides, and people were taking courses on how to run webinars. I was like, why are you taking a course? You could just watch these and literally see how it's done. But that's besides the point. But when you're thinking about your offer, and as most of you guys know, your offer is not only what you're selling, it's also your messaging and like how you're showing up to sell it. The action step here is, and this is very easy because if you're selling something, you're already doing this. I just want you to think about documenting it. Share the process of creating it. And this is something that so many people do not do because they want to show up in like this perfect way and not show the nitty gritty details of how they got there and all the fails and all the missteps and everything that they had to do to get to that point. So for instance, I was telling my friend Ramona, who I just had an intensive with, she's developing protein powders. So when I say that I work with creatives, not necessarily what you're creating or selling has to be a creative thing. If you are a creative person and you like to do stuff outside the box, I can work with you. So she's selling protein powders. And I was talking to her about like where she is with the process. And Ramona's my friend. So I'm like, okay, well, you're just getting the samples for these. Why don't you share that as part of your stories? Like share the process of you receiving these samples, trying them, getting your reaction. Cause she's also very funny. So I'm like, your reaction videos just to your powders would be amazing. She was like, I never thought of that. I never thought that that was something that someone would care about. Then she just told me yesterday, one of her best friends was like, since you had that intensive, your content has been popping, sis. And I'm like, thanks, I know what I'm talking about. But just keep that in mind, that when you are sharing the process, that is what engages people to you. That really like solidifies the whole framework. So if you're thinking about the framework as building the foundation, the solidifying the offer and really sharing the process and telling your story is what is going to endear people to you. It's what's going to make a lasting brand. It's what's going to bring people back to you. Even if they meet you, they're not ready to buy whatever it is you have. They might come back because they're like, I remember how she made me felt, how she made me feel. I want to come back and see what she's doing now, how that's evolved. People like to be involved in that process. Hello. And when I'm talking about this, like it can even be things that are not about your business. So the last example, my client, Amanda, she's one of my old clients. Amanda, when she started, she was doing like a lot of different things. This is actually a shirt that I bought from her. So she had a blog. She was going into selling shirts. She was doing thrifting. And Amanda's also a nurse. So she would still tell stories about everything. And she would come to our coaching calls and she'd be like, I don't know what to talk about. I was like, what do you mean? You're talking to me all day. She's like, yeah, but I feel like it doesn't make sense. I was like, it makes sense for your brand. And this doesn't work for every brand, but it does work for most people. It makes sense because your brand is focused around you and you are the process. Your life is the process of becoming a more specific entrepreneur and stepping into this space, even though you have a nursing job, and she just got pregnant. Well, not just, I think she's at like 6 months now, but I was telling her and it's been an evolution that she's doing it so naturally now because of our work together that she's just showing up all the time. I'm like, Amanda, I know exactly what you're doing. Even if I don't see you in person for a year, I can go to you as soon as we see each other. As soon as you pop that baby out, we can go to happy hour. I will know exactly what to talk to you about because I see everything that you're doing. And this is also about boundaries because while she is pregnant, she hasn't shown the father. She won't say his actual name because that is a boundary. That's something that she's playing close to her chest. So you have to be able to protect yourself, also show the process, show up for your people, and engage. So that's what I wanted to portray to you guys today. So like I said, if you have not gotten the workbook, the link is in my bio. You can download that. It's completely free. It has other action steps. And like I said, it's for people who are committed to seeing results in their business. And this isn't just like for 2022, let's see some results. Like this is an ongoing process. It is an ongoing commitment. It is not just at the end of every year we say, oh, I need to be more committed for next year. Like, no, I need you to be committed every day, every year, every decade. So with that said, I will be back tomorrow for the finale of this series. So if you didn't see yesterday's live, it's still on my feed. You can go check that out. I will upload this one probably tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow I will do day 3. So once you download the workbook, you will be on my email list. So I will be for the creative, for the Flourishing Creative Accelerator, I will be releasing applications early to the people on my wait list and who have downloaded that workbook. So be sure to get over there if you are interested in working with me, even if it's not there in some capacity, because not everyone wants a group coaching program. Some people want more one-on-one. So we can talk and see what would fit for you, but I want you guys to get in action. So be sure to download the workbook, start taking action steps, and let's get to it. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for being here today, and bye-bye.